Welcome to Bigger Than You, the podcast to help you go from overwhelm, self-doubt and scarcity in your business to the calm, grounded and unshakably confident version of you that's going to bring your vision to life. You've got a mission and a purpose that's bigger than you and your limiting stories and beliefs. So let's get you out of your own way. I'm Jenna Holloway, your host and multi-award-winning intuitive hypnotherapist and mindset coach. Expect to hear game-changing perspective shifts on how to align your subconscious mind with your boldest goals, and will unlock the power of energetics, infusing it into every aspect of your life and business for maximum impact. Are you ready? Then let's dive in. Hello, thank you so much for joining me again. I'm so excited to have an amazing guest. This has been a long time coming. And Emily Ramsden is here today to speak to us about scaling your business and scaling it the right way. I have personally worked with Emily for a long time and she's incredible at what she does. So welcome to the podcast, Emily.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Let me just share with the listeners exactly what you do. So Emily is an online business manager and business consultant that works with entrepreneurs to streamline and scale sustainably. By implementing systems and structure, she gives her clients space to fully embody the visionary leader they are and build a business that gives them the freedom and flexibility that they set out to achieve. And like, having worked with you, I know that that is so true. And if you've listened to the podcast much, you might get the vibe that I'm a little bit like, I'm going to use the word scatty, but I don't say that in a like, it's not a negative way. Like I love who I am and how I am, and that's just me. But I recognized early on that I needed kind of support to grow my business with the masculine side of things. I'm much better these days, but Emily was the one that came in for me and was like, right, Jenna, this is what we're going to do strategically for you to get the best from your business. And I've talked about masculine and feminine energy before, and how masculine, like the masculine structures are the container that holds the growth of your business. And without that structure and that kind of strategy side of things, you haven't got, it's like you want a glass of water, but you can't just unless you're going to put your head under the tap, you can't drink the water without the container, right? And the feminine energy, the intuition, the flow, you need the container to hold that. And like Emily and what she brings to your business is wonderful. So first of all, yeah, I'm going to stop talking, Emily. What do you think our listeners need to know in terms of preparing to scale? Let's say that they recognize that they need support, and in order to help them scale, what's the most important thing for them to hear before making a decision?
Yeah, I would say, and thank you so much, by the way, for your lovely introduction. Yeah, I would say that it's about actually recognizing that you need to put some work in to start with to be able to scale, and not letting it get away with you. So business owners often feel like their business kind of just runs away with them, and which is brilliant in one sense. It can feel like this success has kind of just come out of nowhere. They're fully booked, for example. They've taken on new clients and things have kind of run away with them, but they get to that point where it then feels really overwhelming. They can be burnt out. They have so much work to do. And so to be able to scale and feel like it's actually possible to take more clients, to earn more, to grow the business, there's got to be some foundations there. And that's where the structure bit comes in. And it doesn't necessarily mean hiring a team member and hiring someone straight away, but it's about being ready to take that person when they're ready to. So not hiring reactively, not acting out of complete panic and feeling like, okay, I need to burn everything down and start again because it's not working. Think ahead, pause, reflect on where you're at right now, and think about where you want to be in 12 months, and actually put some time into thinking about where the business needs to be able to reach the massive goals you've got on your vision board. They can't be detached. They're not two separate things.
Yeah, that's so good and so important, because we want to be making our decisions ahead of time. Like we don't want to be, like you say, we don't want to be reactive, because that, like, from a subconscious and energetics perspective, we cap out so quickly. Because what we do, remember that your subconscious is only ever interested in keeping you safe, rather than caring about your dreams and your vision and all of that. So what it's doing, it is recognizing and looking for perceived danger all the time. So if you do not like follow the advice that Emily's given, and I think we'll go in a minute, we'll go like more tangible and specific, like what actually are we talking about here? But if you don't do this and you don't make your decisions ahead of time and you do not prepare to scale, what you can do is you can energetically and subconsciously block yourself from bringing in new clients because your nervous system senses danger, right? It's like, so what the nervous system is basically saying is like, no, we cannot accept any more clients because we're not ready. Like if you don't have, for example, an automated onboarding process, like using like a program like Zapier that will go from the what do you call it, the payment link to automatically send the contract, and then to automatically get them into your Facebook group or your training portal, whatever it is. If you have to do all of that manually, you might think that's fine because I'm in the early stages of my business and I'll do all of those things later. Like from a subconscious and an energetics perspective, that is the wrong decision, because you will cap yourself unconsciously because your nervous system doesn't care. It just cares about keeping you safe, and it's basically going to say, no, we can't handle an influx of clients right now because we're not ready for that. So that's where like the strategy part is so important, and making your decisions ahead of time. I was gonna say, would you agree, Emily? But I know you agree. So like, what would you say on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And a way that I've phrased it with people before sometimes is that if, for example, like imagine the scenario where a celebrity shares your business on their like Instagram page, and you suddenly get an influx of followers, inquiries, and it blows up. So many people have this vision of like going viral, a real, absolutely taking off and landing for everybody, and all of these inquiries coming in. But if you actually imagine that scenario and it sends you into a panic, there's something wrong there, because we're not actually ready for our business to scale. We're not ready for it to take off. And so you might be visualizing and manifesting all of these like huge things happening, but you can't actually cope with that. And so it's about being ready for that to happen. Otherwise, it's never going to actually manifest and come into reality. So yeah, there's so much that you can do practically to set yourself up for success. But I think the first thing is acknowledging that you need to spend some time on it. And sometimes that time investment, laying the foundations, doesn't feel cool or fun. It doesn't necessarily feel like marketing and running a huge launch. And I think sometimes there's so much focus around the marketing and nailing that bit. And it is so important. But equally, there's some behind the scenes, maybe more boring to some people, but there's some really important work that needs to be done to make sure that your business can go viral, and it can be huge, and you can make a huge success of yourself by having a solid foundation that feels stable and secure and safe.
Absolutely. And like I would reframe it as, it's not boring. It's like I'm being, I don't know if you've ever heard the expression future friend. I'm being a future friend here because I am setting up a process that I know I'm going to need. And that's not just like, oh, that's nice, that's wonderful, future friend, yada yada. Like energetically, you are opening the door to the thing that you want by being ready. It's like if you kind of think of manifestation, you've got to like act as if you want I don't know why this is coming in, but like if you want to meet a new, like have a new relationship and meet someone, like make sure that you're not leaving like your dirty underwear all over the bedroom. Like if they're just you're gonna meet them and bring them home, like you want to make sure that you're ready, right? Set yourself up energetically for where you are going. That is being the match for the person that you are becoming, not like chasing your tail. Like chasing your tail is not the right energy if you have big goals and you want to like bring that into life. You've got to be strategic about it. So what would you say, like from your experience, the what's the word, like the biggest bang for your buck would be in terms of using your time and your energy in your business to prepare to scale?
Yeah, so there are a few things here. The first one is to acknowledge that there are different ways of scaling. It doesn't have to be hiring somebody and having that additional expense. It's not realistic for everybody at every point in business. And so there are two ways that I always recommend preparing to scale, and that can be either people or processes. So the people is that team member and the additional capacity that somebody can bring, and preparing for that is really important. But processes is the fact that we can use tech and automations. They can be on our side, like you mentioned, having something like Zapier that can help us with the process, using a tool like Dubsado, anything around that kind of area that can help us to streamline and do things for us is technically adding capacity time-wise. So that's a huge win, and it doesn't need to be massively kind of have a cost implication. But I would also say that it's important to acknowledge that by scaling your business, you are setting yourself up, like you said, for more people to come in. And so it's worth investing that time. And one of the tasks that you can do first off is to actually do a task audit of your business. So spending a week writing down every single thing that you do, how long it takes you, and being really realistic, because there are so many business owners that will not admit to themselves that they're spending a couple of hours in the evening scrolling on Instagram to find content ideas, but it's a huge time cost that's happening in the business. And it's okay to admit that those things are happening, but make a note of it and bring it into reality, put it on a piece of paper. And after you've written that list, and it's probably a long list, and that's all right if you're working on your own and you're working for yourself right now, write that big long list and then audit those tasks and highlight which things you enjoy, which things you don't enjoy, which things you're good at and which things you're not so good at. And then you can identify if there's a skills gap or if there's a future focused kind of aim for you to be able to outsource that particular task. So being able to visualize, right, in 6 months' time, I'm not going to be doing that anymore. That's what I'm going to let go of first. Or in 2 months' time, I'm going to invest in more, in a little bit of a better and more sophisticated system to help me with that particular task. Being able to see it on paper and think, right, I've got a plan for the next 12 months to remove 6 hours of time a week. That just feels so much lighter.
That's so good. And also questioning, like when you look at that task audit, question why you are doing those things, because very often, like we make 95% of our decisions unconsciously, right? So if we are, for example, putting other people who do what you do up on a pedestal, and you're seeing the way they do things, and you're unconsciously deciding, right, we've got to do it that way too. If that's not aligned for you, then that's going to be draining your energy. For example, having a group program that also has a Facebook group, like, does that light you up? Does that energize you? If not, like whatever it is on your task list, ask yourself, does it actually need to be done? Or is the fact that you're doing it a limiting belief because you think it needs to be done? Because so much of the support that I give entrepreneurs is the fact that we overcomplicate things because we believe it has to be hard, and it really doesn't. Like, it really doesn't. And when we realize that we're doing this, we can question everything and completely streamline so much, like literally cut the fat and see what we're doing with different eyes. When we realize, like, the fact that you can only ever take an action from two energies: alignment or lack. And when you realize, okay, everything on my task list is in alignment and I'm enjoying doing it, or yes, this is aligned, but it's not a me task, so I'm looking forward to the day when I can hand this over to and outsource this in my business. But actually look at those tasks and see, is there anything there that you're doing because you think you have to, but actually you don't really need to? Do you see it? Do you see any of that?
Yeah, definitely. And one client comes to mind that I supported with kind of really streamlining their time so that they had more capacity to take on more clients. And actually, we uncovered so many tasks that didn't even need to be done. And they were being done because of this thought and belief around over delivering. And it's almost like proving to yourself that you're worthy of the client, the money, whatever it is. And those existing beliefs around how much we have to be a perfectionist and deliver this, like, absolutely ridiculous service to be able to prove that we're good at something. It just is not the case. And so one client in particular was sending out feedback forms after sessions to clients, and it was taking a really long time. First of all, there were a couple of tech things that I could implement straight away to say, like, right, let's speed this up. But actually, when we looked into it more, I asked them to send out a questionnaire to their clients to ask, how valuable is this feedback form? no one read the feedback forms. Like no one even looked at them. And so straight away, it's like, just cut it out. If it's not actually serving a purpose, if it's not valuable, and if it's not aligned, just don't do it anymore. And so it's really important to regularly assess that and not feel like just because you promised something a year ago doesn't mean it has to happen right now.
I love that so much. Can you speak to, because I know that you've done a lot of mindset work, can you speak to what support you, how do I want to phrase this question? What do you wish people, like what's the mindset pieces that people, okay, scrap, let's start again. You know the type of client that gets the best results with you. What kind of mindset do they have that makes them get the best results? And therefore, because of that mindset, what things do they do and not do when they're working with you that makes it such a dream client for you?
Oh, this is a really good question. So I think, first of all, it's really difficult to be a perfectionist and to be an entrepreneur at the same time, because it's really important to just take action and then receive feedback. We can't learn and adapt and refine if we're not putting things out there and learning from them. And so, like in the case of this client, starting off with feedback forms and feeling like they need to over deliver, and then pulling it back and being like, actually, I don't need to do that. I don't need to prove that to anybody. It's not useful. Let's cut it back. That's about being able to admit that you don't need to give everything to somebody. And so, yeah, not being a perfectionist means that you can take action, you can review it, you can refine it, and then just move. And I would also say just being one of those people that actually does take the action and takes the advice and the feedback. I think it's very easy, and I say this with like complete kindness, it's easy for us to believe that we're the only ones that can do what we do. And it's easy to think that we have to hold everything in our head, we have to store it all, we have to carry the weight of like this idea that we've got. But if you just share it and tell somebody, or share that workload and actually trust other people to take the weight of it as well, you'll be surprised how much expertise someone else can bring to actually push you along so much further and faster. You said it before that kind of like hiring and outsourcing speeds up the timeline. Like it literally speeds up the timeline because you're getting someone else's eyes and brain on that same task. And so it's okay to admit that someone else might be able to do something better than you, quicker than you, and have a different perspective. So yeah, there's definitely some mindset work around being confident and comfortable with not feeling like you're the only one that has the same vision and understands what needs to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, it's really liberating. Like, I know this from working with you. It's so liberating to really completely trust and know that somebody has got that. And I don't have to carry the weight of, oh, I hope that task is completed to my really high expectations. No, like if you are choosing to outsource something and you've made your right hiring decision, right, and you're happy with the person that you've got in your team, then trust them and release that. Because if you do not, what you're doing is energetically it's carrying so much weight. And why that matters is because that is blocking you, right? We can only hold a certain amount. And if we are holding the responsibility of hoping and hoping that somebody's going to meet our expectations or like not let us down, or that is heavy, that's taking up space. And when you release that and like just completely trust, then you basically create space for more peace, freedom, joy, wealth, all the things, right? So yeah, I love what you say, but I really just like, on an energetics perspective, it matters so much because yeah, when we release that, we just open the doors for more. We can only hold, we hit a capacity, right? And if we're unconsciously choosing to use up our time and our energy worrying about shit that we shouldn't be worrying about, then we're just blocking ourselves from being able to receive more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a leadership skill, and it's something that I think business owners need to take accountability for when hiring and outsourcing, even if it's a contractor, even if it's someone that you're outsourcing to that is a professional in their own right. That professional relationship is your responsibility just as much as it is the service provider that you're hiring. And so I would say to any business owner that is hiring and has a team, nurture them, completely and allow them space to grow and develop and give them autonomy, because that's when they'll really shine. They're a service provider professional for a reason, so give them space to grow, but equally give them the environment that allows them to feel supported and like they've got the answers and like they can communicate with you. And if you're a service provider that feels like relationships sometimes don't work properly, it's okay to be the one that requests one-to-one meetings and monthly catch-ups. And I feel like my business and my relationship with my clients absolutely transformed when I was the one that kind of set the expectations for what I wanted and I set an expectation for the people that I worked with and the way that they needed to work with me. And so if that means having monthly meetings and me being able to kind of, direct from that point, that makes the relationship so much better and it makes their results better. And so I'm allowed to have that professional judgment too.
Yeah, 100%. I can totally vouch for that as having been a client of yours, because I can imagine it's probably quite intimidating if you're working with as a service provider and you're working with clients that have got like incredibly successful businesses, or they're amazing at what they do. It might feel intimidating to show up in that space as the leader. But you, as the business owner, you want that, right? It's you are hiring them to lead and be the professional and the expert that they are. So they're expecting you to level up and be that leader. And that, that can feel uncomfortable. And I've worked with people and kind of who are service providers from the mindset perspective there, but 100% it's on you to show up and be that leader. And like you say, your results and their results will improve when you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's on you just as much as them, but having that kind of honest conversation about how you want the relationship to go, establish that from the get-go, have a conversation about what relationship you want with a team member and how they want to be nurtured within that environment. And then always remember that if something goes wrong in a business, that's going to happen, but it's how you as the business owner claw that back and make sure that there's support for them, training, all of those things that need to happen. No one is a mind reader and
Exactly.
nothing is going to get just like transmitted through the air. We have to communicate these things. And so it's about if you're committing to having a relationship with somebody in your team, make sure you're actually committed to that. And that's why hiring when you're not being reactive is so important, because you've got to have the mental space to have them on board. And a lot of the time, service providers are hired at absolute desperation point because somebody is so overworked that they need to just hand over tasks. And that's where things tend to go wrong. And so hiring and scaling before you're ready is the key to kind of making sure that there's actually space for the relationship to happen and be successful.
Yes, that's so true. And why that goes wrong when you say people are hiring out of desperation, and this comes down to, again, the energy underneath the action, right? It's not the action that matters, i.e. hiring a team member, is the energy underneath it when you make that decision to hire. So like I said before, you've only ever got the energy of lack or alignment. So when we are making our decisions from a place of lack, i.e. I need to fix this thing, then lack moves get lack results, and we get back stress and the continual need to fix. Whereas when we come at the decision from a proactive place, like we were talking about earlier, thinking ahead in our business and thinking, right, I'm at this stage now, and I don't want to reach the point where I am, like a swan, frantically like trying to keep up. We know it's not sustainable, but you've got to you've got to have your mindset right to be able to see and recognize that, okay, I'm at the point now in my business where I need to hire, rather than getting another 6 months down the line and it's going to be a desperation move, like you say. So yeah, that's really, really definitely a great piece of advice. What else would you say we need to hear, Emily?
Some practical advice, I suppose, for actually getting to the point where you're ready to hire somebody, if that feels like maybe a move that's going to happen in the next couple of months or year, is to actually record all of the tasks that are happening and how they happen. And so if you start writing SOPs, standard operating procedures, which are the really clear instructions that give somebody literally a toolkit, like an alien could drop down and help you in your business, that's going to be the way that you can literally just pass over instructions and not feel like you need to micromanage. it is common for people to hire at the point where they don't have the headspace to necessarily work somebody through the ins and outs of every single task that they're doing. It's great to have that training time if it's available, but being able to give somebody ahead of time all of the tools that they need, all the information they need. And not only does that help at the point of hiring, but actually it allows you as a business owner to not be working in really frantic energy all the time. If every time you complete a task, you're repeating it and thinking about, how does this even work? How do I do this? Let me remember from last time, how did I get that done? If you've got a guidebook to go to, you can almost be in like autopilot switched off mode half the time. And that can conserve your energy for when you're actually delivering work with clients, doing that high energy stuff that actually makes a difference, networking, communicating with people, making connections. That's when you want to be your like best, most switched on self. And so if you're trying to use your energy to actually just do normal admin tasks, for example, you're wasting energy. So make it easy for yourself. Have an instruction manual. And a lot of the time people find that they, for example, if they're working on their own, they get ill, something happens, and they've got these things that just need to happen. If somebody comes to you and says, can I just help? Can I give you a hand with anything? If you have to say, no, sorry, I can't even, it's easier for me to do it because it's just in my head. That's not okay. That's not a good place to be in. It's stressful. It's a lot of pressure, and it's a mental weight that only you know how to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and it is, like you say, it energetically, it is a weight, because it's a tab that's open in your mind all the time, because subconsciously you will know that if you get ill, your business is not running. Whereas if you do have that kind of safety net of a whole list of SOPs, this is how my business runs day to day, this is what needs to happen, and somebody can step in and support you, then that tab shuts down in your mind, because, you know, it's sorted. It's just in case kind of thing. Brilliant. I feel like there's something else, Emily. I don't know what it is. How do you go about, because you have a team now, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about managing, supporting your clients, having like working with your team, and also marketing your business, and, you know, generating leads and new clients and things? How do you manage it?
But when I mentioned that task audit, it's about working out not just which things you enjoy and like doing and find easy, it's the things that are actually like income generating. And so for me, being able to be present in situations like this, networking, that's where I'm going to be able to generate leads really authentically. And I also know that my absolute like passion and the place that I'm much more valued is in my client meetings and having those one-to-one conversations and strategizing. So my team come in and fill the gap where it doesn't necessarily need to be me. You know, it could be me or it could be somebody else. And that's generally the admin work that might come out of a strategy meeting. So I delegate to my team members and they support with that. And it's usually done via Loom. So we use a video recording website for me to actually verbally describe and show somebody the screen. And if you have a team member and you don't use it, I really recommend it, because it's so much better than a written instruction. Written instructions can get miscommunicated, and equally voice notes can be so hard to keep track of. I know they're brilliant because it allows you to just kind of like send an instruction off the cuff, but for a service provider in a business, it can be difficult to actually pick out the really key bits from a voice note and remember to go back to them. And so I would always say having a really clear system for actually delegating tasks, whether it's you to a team member or, for example, me to my team and also to my clients. We use Notion to manage everything. So it's got a really clear deadline, person responsible, and description. And if it needs an added layer of kind of description and guidance, then we will record a Loom video over the top. And then if it's something that's going to happen more regularly, we'll usually have like a training session to go over it. And I try to delegate those tasks that are quite repeatable, the things that happen day in, day out, maybe on a weekly basis. And that's a really nice way of feeling calm about the delegation, because it's not like you have to constantly check in on a specific project that's different every time. You can actually release a lot of control by saying, right, this is going to happen every Monday. They know how to do it. They've done it perfectly 4 weeks in a row. I don't need to worry anymore. It's already done.
Yeah, that's so cool. And how do you go about managing like the responsibility, the desire to grow your business the way you do, but also having balance?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. And I've actually made some changes recently. And it's because it's a really important piece of kind of work that I suppose I've been doing on defining what scaling means. And so I think for some people, the word scaling, and even at the beginning of this podcast, you might have been thinking that means reaching a certain income goal or like hitting these huge heights. And I think it's so easy to absorb the noise of other people's goals online and seeing someone else's version of success as like the definition of a scaled business, but that's really not the case. And so defining your own success and determining what you actually want your business model to look like. For me, it's to work less days a week and to have time off and to go on holidays and to be able to live comfortably. That's my definition of success. It's not to hit some randomly plucked out of thin air income goal that doesn't mean anything to me. And so for me, scaling doesn't mean having a huge number of clients and a massive team. It's having a team I can rely on and a solid group of clients that I love working with every day. And that's a version of scaling for me. So focusing on that every time I make a decision about whether I take a client or nurture a team member, I kind of, yeah, I operate through that guidance really.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's just freedom, isn't it? I literally said to Tom this morning, like, we were talking about teaching and like my past, to me it feels like a past life, because I said to him, like, I literally get up every single day and I'm like, oh, I'm excited about today and I have so much freedom. To me, that's what success is, right? To love everything about your life, and having that time, that space to do what you want, right? That is why we become entrepreneurs. But I think, like you say, we can get so unconsciously caught up in the trap of more, right? Unconsciously seeking this desire to be happy, thinking that we're going to be happy when we've achieved this, like unconsciously, just never ever, it's never enough. Whereas when we make that decision that actually, what do I want, and what does that look like for me, and how can I create that? And that takes like a high level of self-awareness and like conscious decision making over and over and over again to curate the life that you want, not the life that you think you want and that looks like the best shiny thing for everybody else. Like 100% is down to you and what is alignment for you. And I totally feel like I've got there, and sounds like you have too.
I love that. I love that. And it's about being sustainable. Like, I don't want a business that grows for a year and then burns me out and then it's done. Like, it's not about a quick win. This is a long-term plan. And so for so many business owners, they start off by saying, yeah, this is it. This can be, my career until I want to retire early, and this can help me do that. But then they get sucked into this trap of like, okay, well, I need to be securing this much money to compete with this other business owner that's, achieved these huge things. And I need to tick off this and this within the year. And it's about being able to build sustainably so that you can actually manage. And although the aim, of course, is to make sure that the business owner isn't the one that everything stops with, it shouldn't all be on their shoulders. At the end of the day, as somebody that is running and directing their own business, you're part of that. And so you can't be burnt out. You can't be neglecting your own health and balance and lifestyle. And so you've got to be able to put you first. And so building slower and more sustainably isn't a failure. It's a long-term strategy and it's smart business. It means that
Mm.
you're doing things the right way.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm really surprised, like the people that I thought were doing so well, look at their Instagram and they've not posted for like 8 months. I'm like, well, it's just not like they were doing it in an unsustainable way, or they've completely quit. They've just gone. And it's just like,
Mhm.
you've got to do that work on the inside to make your decisions sustainable decisions, if you like, because you can have a business that you absolutely love, but if you're not doing it sustainably, like you say, you're going to burn out and you're going to end up walking away from it. And that's not great. Like, we want to be here, if we want to be here in 5, 10, 15 years time. So yay, so glad. I knew we'd be on the same page, but it's so good to kind of voice that and
Mhm.
share that with the world. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom, Emily. Where can people find you, and is there anything that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Thank you so much. This was such a good conversation. Yeah, I mostly hang out over on Instagram, so I'd love to see people over there. I think my Instagram will be in the show notes, but it's Emily Rose Co. And I have a membership that supports people with all of this stuff. So the Clarity Club is my business success membership that allows business owners to spend time on their business doing this stuff rather than speaking to clients and doing the in the business stuff that sometimes drains their energy. And so if you feel like you're craving that time to step back, see things from above, and get that kind of hands-on support to do that, then I'm your person, and I would love to chat with you and see you over on Instagram.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Emily. And we will see you all next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Bigger Than You podcast with your host, Jenna Holloway. If this episode has been valuable to you, please share it with a friend or leave a review.